Ballard is more than a neighborhood. It's a story shaped by the sea, by hard work, and by generations who brought their traditions, values, and sense of community from the Nordic countries to the shores of Seattle. Today we're at the National Nordic Museum, a place that preserves and celebrates the Scandinavian heritage woven into Ballard's identity, from craftsmanship and culture to family, resilience, and connection. This history continues to influence how Ballard lives, gathers, and grows. I'm Theodora Cornelia, along with my partner Bruce Beavers, and this is the Nordic Soul of Ballard, where the past and present come together to shape one of Seattle's most iconic neighborhoods. We're here at the National Nordic Museum in the Ballard neighborhood of Seattle, and we're joined today by Leif Carlson, who is the executive director. So Leif, the museum is such a part of the Ballard community and of Seattle. Tell me a little bit about your connection, the museum's connection with the community.
Sure. So a lot of people now don't realize that the largest immigrant population in the Seattle region was from the Nordics, primarily from Norway and Sweden. And so this neighborhood here in Ballard really was where that population settled. So this was very much a Scandinavian neighborhood for much of its history up until about 20 years ago. So in 1979, that Scandinavian community got together and decided they really needed a museum to capture that heritage and make sure the traditions and things were passed on to new generations. And that's how the museum started.
I am very fond of 17. Mai, and that is Norway's Constitution Day, and we just have so much fun when we are at the parade and the events and the festivities prior to the parade. And it is amazing to me, the little kids, from the little kids that study for months and their dances and their folk dances, as well as the community that comes together from the Nordic heritage, that the costumes that have been handed down and hand sewn from generations. It's so amazing to me. And I read the other day that King Harold was here at the opening of the museum.
He was. So we had a number of visitors to the museum from the Nordics, whether it be royalty or heads of state that have visited us. The ambassadors come here regularly. We actually even do passport renewals and voting for Nordic countries here in the museum.
That's an interesting fact. Didn't know that. So what's your favorite thing in the museum?
Well, that is a hard question.
I know, I put you on the spot with that one.
Usually I would say the newest thing is my favorite thing. I always like how dynamic the museum is. So we're constantly bringing in new exhibitions, often from the Nordic countries or from things in the Pacific Northwest with a Nordic focus. So I always love the new exhibitions that we bring in, the new programs that we bring in. We run usually over 100 programs a year at the museum. So there's every week some new interesting thing happening. So I think my favorites are those new things that are new and exciting. So I like to talk about kind of what museums do in basic terms. And in the most basic terms, what we do is use objects to tell stories that might be true. And I say might be true because we often don't know the complete story behind things.
Of course.
And often it kind of evolves over time. This bicycle is one of my favorite objects in the museum, not only because I'm a cyclist, but because it just has such a unique history. So in World War II, Finland was really just decimated by the Nazis and then the Soviets that kind of moved in, and there was a real worry that people would become absorbed into Russia at that point. And so a lot of people fled cities, and they fled by whatever means they could. So in this case, the family fled on bicycles at the end of the war. And the man that fled on this bicycle ended up emigrating to this area, ended up running car dealerships actually in the Seattle region. But his sister actually recovered the bicycle that he rode out of the city on at the end of the war, restored it, gifted it back to him, and then he brought it back to America. So this is actually that bicycle that was ridden out at the end of the war. So I just love kind of that story of how these objects that we end up with, they have these long histories often before they even reach the museum. And then we're able to present them and tell these incredible stories.
That is an amazing story. In the Nordic Journeys exhibit, you will see historical narratives and oral first-person accounts that share the journeys of Nordic immigrants who crossed the sea and made the Pacific Northwest their home, shaping neighborhoods like Ballard and even iconic names like Nordstrom along the way. From intimate stories of daily life to screenings of Nordic cinema, the museum uses moving images to connect us directly with the people behind the history. It traces over 12,000 years of Nordic history from prehistoric eras through immigration patterns and modern cultural life.
The Nordic Museum began with community roots in Seattle's Ballard neighborhood, a historically Scandinavian American enclave where Nordic immigrants settled in large numbers in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Ballard's fishing fleets, mills, and connection to the sea made it a natural hub. It was officially founded in 1979 and opened to the public in 1980 as the Nordic Heritage Museum. The mission was to collect, preserve, and share the history and culture of Nordic immigrants. Here in Ballard, Nordic heritage isn't just remembered, it's lived, celebrated, and passed on. At the National Nordic Museum, traditions like Syttende May connect generations, honoring the past while inspiring the future.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Theodora Cornelia with Theodora Cornelia Homes, along with Bruce Beavers, and we will see you on our next adventure on American Dream TV.